Amen. Amen. So, Dolaolu will be getting an award at the end of our 6 months for the fastest prayer ever. This cohort. Yeah, I think Jolaolu will be winning that award. Well, it's too early to say. Maybe we will come across one that will be faster than that. But as it stands right now, she's the one winning that particular award category. Okay, so welcome everybody once again. Um, let me give a little bit of a background. The reason for integrating this particular section is because while coming up with the structures and the outline for the things we'll be talking about, the mind shift and everything, I told myself that, okay, having integrated the specific topic that I felt led in my spirit by God to include, I also come to the understanding that there might be other aspects that might be particular to individuals that might not have been covered in the topics that we have. And the truth is that sometimes change is or impact is personalized, and growth is sometimes not generic. So there will be instances where we might have some personal experiences, realities that we need clarification on, and we would need to together review them from a Christocentric perspective, meaning Christ-centered perspective, or invariably kingdom perspective, to the end that our growth can be an awesome one. So that's why we integrate this section where people can ask questions based on what is peculiar to them, maybe something that we've not touched, or maybe during some of the topics that we've done, there is a question that spins off that you have, so that we can have an avenue to actually answer them. Now, understand that the goal of the balanced woman is to build women that are balanced spiritually, mentally, even at level of their finance. So it's an initiative that is supposed to touch every aspect of life. So that means that your question also can come from any aspect of life. So there is no bottom line to what a question can or what a question should be. As long as it's something that has to do with you, a person, and fulfilling the purpose of God for their life, every question goes. Now, another thing I want to put forward is I understand that some people might have questions that I might not be able to answer. Yeah, it's possible, and that's fine. So, and that's one of the reasons we are not alone on this group. If you ask me some question that maybe is too particular, maybe too streamlined, and maybe I can't give you an answer on the spot, we throw it up onto the house, we listen to wisdom from people also. And while we take those wisdom, we review them in the light of the Word of God and put balance to them in the light of Scripture. And for questions that, if possible, all of us is not able to answer, then we'll pen them down, and probably the next question section we'll go back to visit them, and then we'll be able to look at them in the new light of the newer revelation or understanding that we might then have at that point in time. So that's like a background to what we are doing today, why we are doing it, the scope of what we are doing, and the possibilities of experience that we might come in contact with during this section. So, yeah, it's not about me today, it's about us. So, I want to presume that everyone has a questions. You have a question or at least questions. So, this is what we want us to do. Should I call us according to how our name appear here, or should I allow us to raise our hands and ask our questions? So should we do one or should we do two? So you can respond in the comment section if we should do one or if we should do two. One being me calling people's name as it appears on my screen, and two being allowing people to raise their hands and then we call them. Everybody is ready for two. Okay. Well, that's not yet a unanimous decision. I think I only get into response. But even more than two right here. So we are not doing well. This is not a where two or three are gathered though. It is a whole house thing. So Mojaolua, what's your feedback? Olamide, what's your feedback too? Should we do one or should we do two? Okay, you will have to type a question. Okay, that's fine. Please, you can start typing now. You can start typing your question. Okay. So that means more of two. That's fine. Please, tonight is not when we just join meeting and drop our phone. No, we need to be actively involved. So while Mujalaoluwa is typing our question, can we have with a show of hands who wants to go first? Okay, so I'll be calling Tomisin's son. I think we already have a question in the chat box. Okay, how does one pivot from the comfortable to the unknown? Okay, so let me make some presumption because that was not so well detailed, but let me make some presumption. Now, when you say comfortable, I want to presume that you mean that, okay, probably a current routine of life that you're already used to and that reasonably works at a level. But now, in the midst of it working, you know that there is possibility for more. But the more is a field probably where you don't have enough information, you don't have enough clarity, but you know that something needs to change. Or maybe you say, okay, yes, okay. So I would say that the first and the most important thing have already occurred. What's the most important thing? Coming into awareness that you are in a comfort zone. And two, coming into an awareness that there is room for more. I think that's one of the most important things that needs to happen. And thank God that has happened already. One of the biggest mistakes that people can make in life is being stuck in a place of mediocrity and yet not even being aware. And sometimes it's not because they want to be stuck. Not because they want to be stuck. It's because they don't know better. Let me give a practical example. There was a point in time where I taught in a secondary school, and my salary then was, I think 40,000 a year. 40,000. Now, in the light of today's economy, I don't know if there's anything anybody can do with 40,000. I don't know. But this is the interesting part. While I was there, that was even for my youth service, there were people there in that same institution that it was both the husband and the wife they were working there. So that means plus or minus their salary was less than 70,000. Because I came in as a graduate, the wife came in as an NCO, so the ability was being paid more than her. So if anybody's being paid better than I am, maybe the husband. So let's say plus or minus, their whole family salary was less than 100K. And as at that time, I think they already had 2 or 3 kids. Yeah. Now, but the husband, relatively, they were still young, maybe in their late 40s, early 50s, maybe that. But I discovered that in that same institution, we had some teachers that were already in their 60s. So it means they've been in that system for more than 20 years. So a day I woke up and I told myself, if you are not careful and you stay with these crumbs, that let me just be managing it. Because one thing that your comfort zone does to you is things fill up. Say, okay, let me say, I posted something, I said something else on the page. Whether you are conscious or not, things will always fill up your time. Your time is never free or never unoccupied. Now, I was giving an example. If you find out your time wasters today, let's say you find out that, oh, I doom scroll, I procrastinate, and you say, okay, my solution to doom scrolling is, that could be a comfort zone. My solution to doom scrolling is, I want to delete all the social media app that I have. You will discover that after doing that, in the next 3 days, if you are not careful and disciplined, you will find out that another set of things has filled up that time that you are using to doom scroll before, and yet those things are still not adding to you. They are not adding value. What am I trying to say is, there is a way this world is structured that something that will not add to you find a way of filling up your time. So it means that it takes a conscious and a deliberate effort actually from you to shift from a comfort zone. So let me tell you this, one of the greatest challenges anybody will face in life is moving from their comfort zone, because it's not easy. The way the human mind has been trained, especially for our own generation, is that we've been trained to laze around. We've been trained to do everything except those things that we have to our destiny fulfillment. We've been trained to look for the easy way out. It's why we would rather see a movie than write a script for a movie. It is why we would rather sit down in front of screen and watch celebrity than build our social media portfolio into becoming celebrities. It is why we would rather do every other thing in life than do the things that our destiny actually require. And maybe one of the things that not help is the fact that we are God conscious. That's one. Now, this is how it helps. If you are God conscious and you are destiny focused, there is a way it propels you to do some of those things that you need to do. But let me tell you this story. I think I was sharing this with my wife recently. So like, I've never told her before. So something happened to me maybe a few years back. I traveled and I had food poisoning. And that night I almost died. I thought I was going to die, really. I thought I was going to die. I didn't know what I discovered in that moment. I discovered that nothing else matters in life. Because in that moment, in those 3 hours of pain that I was in, I wasn't thinking about my parents. I wasn't thinking about jobs. I didn't even think about wife. Then, I wasn't even thinking about relationship. None of those things mattered in that moment. I discovered that there was only one thing that mattered to me. And in that moment, I was telling Jesus, I cannot die now because I cannot come and meet you this way, having not fulfilled anything you sent me to do. So in that moment, it dawned on me that the only thing that actually made sense, and this is also on the basis of my perception to life, the fact that I'm God conscious, and the fact that I understand how the reward system of heaven is going to look like. So if I'm going into eternity that night, I was conscious of the fact that I was not really going to have any meaningful reward. I imagine I'm going there to collect what I'm going to use for eternity. So that became the only concern I had. So similarly, I feel that for some people, it's going to be something that big that will happen to you. But you don't need to wait for something that serious for you to call yourself to order. See, the comfort zone that we stay in will kill us. And that's the only thing it will do to us. It will limit us and limit our potential. So once you have discovered that, guy, I am staying too long in my comfort zone, then you need to understand what your comfort zone is. Is it the fact that, or maybe let's say you've identified purpose, destiny, you know this is where you need to be. I think it's important for you to create systems that helps you to get to where you need to go. Okay, so I'm moving on into how do you pivot from comfort zone into where you need to be. One, you need to create systems. And by systems, I mean you need to create a structure that takes you from where you are to where you need to be. So one of the things in life that you cannot underestimate is, one, company, people of like minds, the power of accountability, and the power of a focus that is right in front of you. You need to write the vision, make it plain. See, some of these scriptures are not just, what's the word now? They are not just cliche. Do you understand? Write the vision, make it plain. Where you need to be. Write it out. If you write, make it big. Put it where you wake up to see it every day. And create and ask yourself serious question. What do I need to do that will get me from point A to point B? And I'm not sure if I sent this to us. Okay, I'm going to share a slide with us that I used when I had a meeting with some women in Port Harcourt. And the goal is, it talks about the fact that there are 4 quadrants to life. Things that are important and that are urgent, do them immediately. If you want to pivot into where you ought to be, do them. If it's important and it's urgent, do it immediately. If it's important and it's not urgent, schedule it and do it later. And ensure that you do it at the time that you designate for it. You must kill procrastination. Because if you don't kill it, it can kill you. So we have to consciously make sure that we kill procrastination. Now, the Torah says, if it's not urgent and it's not important, eliminate it, remove it completely from your life. It doesn't need to be there at all. It doesn't need to be there. And the fourth one, if it is important, urgent. If it's important but not urgent, that's what you schedule. If it's not important but it is urgent, what you do with that one is you delegate it. So you must understand that you have. Hello, can you still hear me? You must understand that we have limited time in this world, and your time must be maximized. So there are some things you must do immediately, some things you must reschedule, some things that you must delegate, and some things that you must eliminate. And most of the things that you will eliminate are the things that keeps you in your comfort zone. And let me tell you one of the things that you must eliminate. You must eliminate some people in your life. Please don't kill them. I don't mean kill them. I mean you need to detach. You need to rearrange your community. Now, I'm not saying get rid of your friends that are not rich, no. But you get rid of friends that are not going the same direction as you are. Move away from them. Move away from people that do not have the ability to see as you see. See, there are some people that they are myopic, they can't think far, they can't see far. If you are going on a journey that is long, you don't need people like that. I was telling someone recently, I don't think there is any dream that anybody can share with me that can be like, wow, your dream is so big. Are you sure you can achieve this? I don't think there is any dream in this world that anybody can share that at this level that I am, that I can consider so grand, and I've not seen bigger scale before. I was going to, Apostle was saying something this week. He talked about the fact that he has 8 streams of income across 8 different businesses, organizations. So if whatever you are doing, you are not touching the eight different sphere of influence, you are not doing much yet. You're not doing anything yet. So there's really those are things that you must get. Those are like some of your comfort zone that you need to eliminate. People that are not going the same direction as you are, get rid of them. People that helps you see that your dream is impossible, unachievable, get rid of them. Things that waste your time, eliminate them. So when you begin to do those things consciously, and then as you're eliminating those people, you also have to be intentional in how you are replacing them. See, it's a kingdom principle. If you pull down an altar, if you don't erect another altar, before you know it, you find another altar there that you don't know about. So when God told Gideon, he said, pull down the altar, God also instructs Gideon to erect an altar for the Lord. So he was called Jerubbaal, not because he pulled down the altar of Baal and Asherah only, no, but because he also built another altar for the Lord. So similarly, as you eliminate things that put you in your comfort zone, as you eliminate all of those realities, you must consciously institute a replacement. So as you are removing people that are not going the same direction as you are, you must start recruiting people that are going the same direction as you are. People that can spur you to good works. People that will check it on you and ask you, what have you done with what you are doing? Okay, you shared an idea with me. How far have you gone? What are you doing about it now? Do you understand? So those are like some of the directions that we need to take in pivoting from our comfort zone into the unknown. And finally, let me say this. The unknown sometimes can be scary if we don't have enough information. In fact, that's what it means to be unknown. Is that you have enough information. So nothing beats the power of research. Nothing beats learning. We are on a constant journey of learning. So you must always learn. So that which is unknown today, it simply means there is knowledge yet to be uncovered. And the more knowledge you have about it, the less mysterious it becomes. So you must learn. Daniel said, I understand by books. That the time of Israel's salvation has already passed. So you must also understand by books. You must attend conferences. You must listen to people that have gone ahead in the same direction that you are going. You must invest in your growth. Your money is not only meant for shawarma. Your money is not only meant for creams. Your money is not only meant for what they call it now, skincare. You must do those things. It's important. But as you are spending on your skin or your flesh or your body, also spend on your mind. So we talked about the fact that even as your soul prosper, he said, I wish above all things that you remain in health and in wealth, even as your soul prospers. So it is very important for your soul, your mind, your cognate to also prosper. So you move easily from the comfortable to the unknown, the more you know. So I think I just wanted to have that before we move from there. Okay, so do we have a follow-up question based on that, or should we have Oluwatominsin? Mujula Olua, is your question answered, or do you have a spin-off question for us? You can type it, and while you type that, can we have Oluwatominsin? Your question, please. Please, can you still hear me? Is Oluwatominsin still on this call? Can you still hear me? Hello, please, can anybody still hear me? Hello? Hello? Hello, guys, can you still hear me? Is that my network? Hello? Oh, that's bad. Hello, can anybody hear me? Hello, can you hear me? We lost network. Why? Hello? Hello? Oh, no. Hello, can you hear me now? Hello, can you hear me now? Hello, can anybody hear me now? Sorry, I think my network disappeared. Sorry about that. So what was the last thing you were able to hear before network did that? What was the last thing we had? Did we hear me talk about the importance of learning in moving from your comfort zone to the unknown? Did we hear me talk about the importance of learning? Okay, yes, you did. Okay, so that was where I rounded up on that. So I was saying that, Mujola Olua, does that answer your question, or do you have a spin-off question? And while you type that, can we have Olua Tomisin ask a question? Thank you. So Olua Tomisin, please, your question.
Should I type it, sir? Or should I just say it?
No, you can go ahead and say it.
Okay, my question is on God's will. So somebody was sharing a testimony, somebody in my school, and she said she wanted a particular course, but because of cut-off, she could not get that particular course. And so they gave her another course. They told her to go to another department. When she finished 100 level, she tried to cross to that to another department, the department she wanted to be. She wanted to be in nursing. So she tried to cross, but it was not successful. And then she said that it is God's will for her to be in the department she is, that God wants her to do something there. And I've seen that a lot of people, when they are trying to get something and then they did not get it, maybe they want to have something and they don't have it. The thing they say is that it is God's will for them not to have it. The way she said it, like God wants her to be in that particular department. That's why it is impossible for her to cross to nursing. So I want to ask that, is it true that when things don't go our way, is it because God is aware of it?
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so I'm going to answer this from multiple angles. Multiple angles. So I'll start with the last thing you said. When things don't go our way, is it that God is aware of it? Now, this is the beauty of God. God is aware of everything. The truth and the lies that we tell ourselves. Now, one of the major disservice that religion, now notice what I called it. I called it religion. I didn't call it the Christian faith. One of the greatest disservice that religion has done to us is we use it as a means to rationalize reality, when in the actual sense of it, it is our lack of choice that is the prevalent issue. Now I'm going to explain. Now, there are many things that we accord to God that God knows nothing about. And there are many things that we accord to the devil that expressly, directly has nothing to do with the devil. Sometimes our experience in life is a byproduct of our limitations. Remember what I said during the topic that we did, God is our source. I used finance as an example that time, but it extends beyond finance. When I was growing up, the entirety of knowledge that we received, growing up, was that if you are not, once you are going to the science classes, you have to become an engineer. Either a civil engineer, a mechanical engineer, or what's the other one? An electrical engineer. And they will tell you that the best of the three is the civil engineering, because they learn a bit of everything. Now, if you're in art class, they tell you it's either you become a lawyer or you become a journalist, mass communication and law. If you're in the art department, in the commercial department, that's what they call it at one time, it's either you are going for accountant or business administration. You see, anything out of these courses that I have laid out, the professional courses, if you don't do any of these things in our own time when we were growing up, you were most likely unconsciously regarded as a failure. So we grew up with that limited knowledge that it has to be this. So that knowledge, or let me say that limited knowledge that we have, was the backbone behind the decision that most of us took when we were going to the university. Now, when the whole cutoff thing now comes up, and many of us find ourselves in different departments, do you know what we do? We now begin to rationalize that current reality. And in a way to give ourselves peace, we sum it up to, this is the will of the Lord. When God knew nothing about it. See, whatever God does not utter, and whatever God does not declare, God is not, I don't want to use express that God is not involved. Yeah. So, this is how it ought to be. It ought to be the case that before she applied, before the person write JAMB, before they did post JAMB, before low score and cut off mark, or sometimes the person might have even passed exceptionally, but because of maybe number of people vying for that same courses, they already passed the threshold and they have to drop some people. Some people find themselves in other departments. Now, let me use your friend. She's a friend of the family. So I had this friend, when I was in OAU, I had this friend in Lautech. So I was going into part 1. She was in, I think she did PD part 1. I can't remember very clearly. So she wanted medicine. Just have to give an example based on what you were saying. She wanted medicine. And then I think the degree that she did or something, I think they gave her something that has to do, maybe physics or something. I can't clearly remember. But they should give her a course that she does not want. And she passed. So it was not a problem of cutoff or this person failed. They gave her a course that she does not want. So because of that, like this example that you gave, The person I'm talking about tried to do, okay, let me do jam and everything. The person passed the jam, passed the post jam. When they still gave her that same course they gave her the first time, they gave her again. You know, at that point, anybody could have concluded that this is the will of God, because apparently she passed 2 different times, and yet they gave her exactly, I think, the same course twice. Now, any child of God would have really said, this is the will of God for my life, and settle. So most times what we do is we settle and we claim it is the will of God. Do you know what she did? She applied for medicine in another school. And today the person you're talking about is a medical doctor. And she's doing very well in her field. Now, at what point does it not become the will of God? If the Lord had not said it, if the Lord had not commanded it, it is not the will of God. And that's why every son of God, every daughter of God must learn to be able to hear God early, so that we don't settle in life and claim that it is God's will. Many of God's children today settled for realities because they lack options. I've seen many people with similar cases. Some of them will just leave the federal university and they'll move to private university. They will have the course of their choice. And they will do exceedingly well. So sometimes poverty or lack of choice makes us to settle. But because of our religious mind, we will conclude, so that we can give ourselves peace of mind, that that's the will of God for our life. So how do you know the will of God? The will of God is known in the things that the Lord has declared. If God had not declared it, see, one thing the person should ask themselves is it God that said it? Or is it me that God? See, people used to be like, I prayed and I have peace about it. Peace is sometimes is not a perfect reflection of the will of God. You can have peace on the basis of your knowledge, and on the basis of someone's current reality, someone can have peace. It doesn't make it the will of God. Because sometimes it is knowledge based and experience based. If that person has other options, or let me say somebody rise up and say, I'm going to sponsor you, go and apply to this private university and I will take care of the bills, will the person not take it? If the person will fake it, if that person will take it, then what happens to this is the will of God? So that shows us something, that the person is most likely settling. See, the moment you know that it's the will of God is when you tell the person, there is an option. This private university is recruiting. If you apply today, based on this call, they will give you admission. And the person says, no, I am not going. That is the will of God. Because it means that at that point, the person is convinced beyond all reasonable doubt. Maybe on the basis of what the Lord has said or what the Lord has revealed. But say, okay, that's when you know that, okay, truly it is the Lord. But in the face of lack of options, sometimes what we claim is God is not God. We only know it is God when there is option and you still stick with what you claim the Lord has said. So I think that is the best way to evaluate, is it God or is it not God? In the face of option, will you stay or will you change your mind and go with what you actually preferred? If the person will still change their mind, then it is not God. It is not what God has said. Because what God has said ought to be for us as God's children, the final say. Now, in instance that God now speaks to a man that I want you to stay here, we can now understand that God is speaking on the basis of what he knows. Because God knows the end from the beginning. Let me give an example of myself. When I was going into uni, I applied for law, but I was not too serious then. So I didn't do exceptionally well in my results. I passed, yeah. So I ended up having to study language. And I stayed. I didn't even bother myself trying to leave or change any courses. So after my 4 years, I was like, I was there. I was like, thank God I didn't waste time studying law. Now, why did I say that? I didn't say it because law is not good, law is not amazing. I said that because I came to a point in my life where I later discovered that irrespective of whatever course I had done that time, I would not have ended up using it. Because later on, I had to pivot now into business, did my MBA and all of those things. Do you understand? So I later on discovered, because as at the time I was speaking the course there, I was speaking on the basis of knowledge, not on the basis of what God has said. So I later discovered that if I studied law, I would have wasted more years getting a result I would never use. So I was able to give thanks to God for that. And thank God I didn't waste more than 4 years. So the emphasis is this, and this is the answer I'm giving to that. If God had not said it, let's not settle. Let's not settle. Let's not settle. But if it is God has said it, such that at the face of seemingly better option, we will still have stayed with that seemingly lesser option. Then that is God. But if we will not stay, it is not God. We are simply settling. And that is not the will of God for our life. So this is my advice to the person. Let the person go to God and ask him questions. Lord, what will you have me do? Do you want me to stay here? Or do you want me to try again? See, in God, there is no lateness. Let me say this right now. In God, there is no lateness. Because the people you are transacting with in the heavens, they are not mortals. So they are not affected by time. They are not. It is we that we are time conscious. They are not time conscious. If it takes us 10 years to plow the right route, they are not in a hurry. Because they are not in a want of time. They are not in a want of time. So they are patient enough. They are patient. Do you understand? So it is wisdom to just go to God and ask God, what will you have me do? It might end up being that, like my own case, both the first and the other degree, you might end up not even using them. But God still wants you to go to the school for the experience, for the exposure, for the contacts, for the platform. Do you understand? So it could be all of those things, but most times, God's children, they settle just to have peace within themselves. And then we put it under the guise of this is the will of God for my life. So I'm not sure if I've entirely answered your question, but if you have a spin-off question based on that, please. Okay. So do we have any other question? Elizabeth, Abigail. Okay, is that a question in the chat box? Oh, okay. Abigail, Elizabeth, do you have any questions? Olamide. So who's going next? You could just raise your hand if you want to go next. Don't tell me we didn't come with any questions at all. Okay, Olamide, go ahead.
Okay, good evening, sir. Good evening. Thank you for the questions asked so far. Thank you for doing justice to those questions. So, my question might not be in line with what we've asked, which we've been taught so far, or better still, but not really. So, my question is, how do you, should I say maritally now, how do you deal with God for your life? You know, some people that will say, oh, I've prayed about it, I have peace. Is it just peace, basically, or there's something better that you should focus on? Or what exactly, sir? Thank you.
Maritals. Okay. So, let me just speak about maritals in general. This is one of the things I always advise people. Start in life. Start praying early before you are boxed or before you have colorations, before you have lenses. Now, what do I mean by lens? Lens could be experience, could be presence, could be perceptions, could be a lot of things. Let me give you an example. If you waited till there is a brother in your corner and this brother just have a way of knowing the right thing to say at the right time. He has the best words to describe every situation. He is very, very considerate. He picks your need as if he's a prophet of the first order. And you don't even have to ask him. He's so sensitive that, in fact, prior to your need, it's like God has already shown him. And then he's meeting those needs. In all sense of being a human, is next to being perfect. And you want to pray about that kind of a brother. If you don't have a functional and deeply rooted relationship with God, and a well-built how to hear from God system, the only thing that you will hear is yes. And what you will have is peace. And that's the truth. Because in that instance, your lenses are colored, and your lenses are colored, yes. So most often than not, you will have that. But now, let me give you the same counsel that a person gave me a particular year ago. He's one of my senior friends. He's a pastor. He told me, he called me by my name and he said, be sincere with God. Hey, listen. He said, be sincere with God. He said, see, God is not a man that we can scam. We can't scam him. See, you can go to your spiritual father and give him half truth. You can go to people that have authority over you and give them half truth. But you can't do that with God. So he said, so because of that, when you approach God, just be sincere. He told me, see, it is not every fine. Let's start with this. It is not every fine that it is God that will come and meet you and say, see this brother, or consider this brother. No. Especially considering now the way that this word of heart is structured, where even as a woman, you can't even make a move. You have to wait for the brother to come. So it means that as a woman, you're already limited to the options that shows up. And that alone itself, God is ujoro, and that's not the will of God, because that complicates a lot of things. It means that as a woman, your choice is limited to, if it's only 3 people that showed up, it means you are limited to those 3 people or those 3 options. But okay, before I go to that, let me tell you what I tell people initially. I said before the days of brothers start showing up, before they start saying lights, start seeing you and everything, I say know the kind of person you can marry. So one of the greatest prayer that we can pray in life is, God, what kind of a man can I marry? Or what kind of a man have you destined for me? Now, I'm not asking you to ask God for name. Or you could, yeah. You could ask God for name. You could ask God for what it looks like, all of those things. But this is the challenge of that. I've seen cases where God told people, this is the name of your husband. And then the scripture says, don't be bewitched. That which you started in the spirit, don't finish it in the flesh. I've seen people whereby God gives them the name of their husband, and then they sat down. They began to rationalize based on the name, and they begin to look into their sphere. Which of these people that I know that goes by the name could be my husband? Don't do that. But it is human to be tempted to do that. So if God has given you a name, let God also point the person to you. Do you understand? That's where safety lies. So what am I saying? It is important and imperative for us to understand the kind of person you can marry. and the kind of person you can marry will have a direct reflection on who you are. So if you don't know who you are, don't even think about getting married. Because it is the knowledge of who you are in God that will be a pointer to who you can marry. Let me give you an example. We've not got to that topic, but we'll get there. When we're going to discuss a woman and her own husband, it's not a topic we are going to look into. You must understand that in the concept of the word helpmate, if God is calling you as a career woman, then you need to marry a man that is homely. You can't also marry a man that is 100% career focused, because the family will suffer. And one of the assignments in life and in destiny is to raise for God a Christian home and to raise for God godly children that will continue what God has started with your own generation. So the mother cannot be gone and the father is also gone. You now say you left the children with the nanny, or you left them in people's care. Not with what the world has turned into. Not in this world where we have fallen men, where we have carnal men. No, you can't risk it. You can't drop this arrow, you can't drop God's arrow in a place where they can be tainted. You can't. So you must have oversight. So what I'm saying is, the kind that you are, who you are, who God has called you to be, is going to reflect on the kind of person you are going to marry. So you can't just marry anyhow. If you're someone that will not be readily available, you cannot marry a person that will also not be available. It's not possible. It won't work. So when you know who you are, God now gives you additional information on the kind of a person that your husband will be. It makes it easy for you to eliminate people when they come. So when they come, you just ask them some specific question. Okay, what's your plan? What's this? You that already know that God is sending you to nations. And the person is also coming to say, no, God has called me with a prophetic assignment, with apostolic cutting edge. I'm going to be in 21 countries in a week. Then you know that's not the person you can marry. Unless in the heat of that, you now tell the person to, as God will call you to 21 nations, He's calling me to 21 nations. And most of you can now say, okay, while we are going to 42 nations in a week, this is how we are going to do it. You will go to your 21 nations first, Monday to Wednesday. Then when you are back at home, I will go for my own Thursday to Friday. And you're able to create a balance to the end that your family does not suffer. In fact, even with that arrangement, family is still suffering, because it means that one of you has gone Monday to Wednesday without seeing the partner. The partner is going Wednesday to Friday without seeing each other. That means in a week, you guys will not even see. So what kind of family do you want to build? What kind of image are you painting to the next generation? So I'm trying to say that a knowledge of who you are goes a long way in maritals. 2, pray to know the kind of a man you can marry before the days of coloration. Before one man start becoming the sugar in your bonfita. Know the kind of a person, so that when they come, it becomes a lot easier for you to know that, I like you as a brother in Christ, but it's not you. Now, when you've already done those two things, it becomes now easier to pray and for God to bring to your remembrance the things He has said. So one of the problems that people face in the place of prayer is there is nothing for God to call their remembrance back to. So when the sister starts catching feelings, because I think sister catch feelings easy, and it's normal, it's okay. It's just that you people have more stability in your head than guys. We are somehow, but God is helping us. So when you start catching feelings, God can easily come to you and say, daughter, remember what I said 2 years ago, that this person will be like this, will be like this. This guy that you are catching feelings for is not like that, though. So please backtrack. And then immediately there's something to cut your remembrance. But if you have never prayed, now want to start praying in the days when the brother is already here and is already the 9 to your 10. See, you will claim that you have peace, but that peace is a peace that is coming from coloration and is coming from the fact that this brother is amazing. But that is not the way to go. That is not the way to go. See, external realities, now let me put it before I round up on this. External realities does not determine who you marry. Current realities does not determine who you marry. What determines who you marry is who you are, who God has called you to be, your alignment, both of you, in purpose, and what God wants to do with your family. Now, there's another thing you must ask God for. What is God's intention for your marriage? What does God want your marriage to exemplify? Those are the things you must know. Who I am, who I can marry, and what is our marriage going to represent. So that when you ask the person, I'm already saying something else, you know it's not him. No matter how amazing he is, then you can easily tell him, I like you, bro. I really like you. But that is saying no. And what I was saying the other time, see, you must be sincere with God. So this is what my pastor friend told me. He said, if you find a sister that you like, now I'm not saying God spoke to you. You see a sister that you like. He said, just go to God and say, Daddy, I like sister. That was how he said that. That's why I'm saying it to you the same way. I like this sister. However, in that kind of a prayer, you must have an heart posture, which is very, very important. That Lord, whatever you say, I will do. See, you can like somebody genuinely. It's okay to like someone. It's okay to see someone and probably fall in love at first sight. If people still do that, I think people still do that. It can happen and it's okay. And say as a sister, you can go to God and be like, Daddy, I like this brother. But go with an heart posture that if God says no, then let his no be no. Let God be true and let every man a liar. Don't even ask him why. There's no point. But be sincere with God, because God knows your heart in the first place. See, God likes people like that. Look at in the case of, is it Jacob now, Isaac, when they went to find a wife for him. And Abraham sent his servant to go to his kindred and pick a wife. You know, when the man got there, he prayed a simple prayer. He said, Lord, if you are my master, I find favor in your sight, and blah, blah, blah. Let the first woman that will come and do this, give us water and give our camel water and everything, let her be the one. Do you know that as he lifted up his head, he saw Rebecca coming? So it means that it was not when he prayed and Rebecca left the house. She had left the house before the man started praying. And what does that show us? That shows us that even Rebecca as a woman, now she's on point. She's, at least maybe we could say, Scripture didn't say that expressly, but she's a tiny woman. She's a woman on court, a woman of the spirit. She knew where she ought to be. Because it could be that is how all of them in that city, that's how they were trained, to be nice to strangers. So it could have been that maybe anybody that had come would have actually given them water and also watered their camel, because they are well-trained children. But she was the one that arrived at the right time. And she was the one that chose to marry Isaac, because she chose him before meeting him. She agreed for a bride price to be paid so that she can journey to meet him. A man she has never seen. But a man she chose. Probably because maybe God has already shown her something. But Scripture didn't allow it, so we don't know. So there is a way a man comes to you, and as he's coming, he's asking you out, you're giving answer the same day. Not because people used to assume that, if I do that, I have to play out to get. You don't have to play out to get. God has shown you this and this and this and this. He will be a rookie to think that, Israel has to play out to get. It's not necessary. But you don't have to take that part, Sha. I know we see things differently, but nobody has to. It's not necessary. Maybe, let's just leave that, Sha. Everybody can do that part as God pleases, as it pleases God has led to their heart. There is no scriptural demand on when anybody should give response, but please don't keep anybody waiting for 6 months. If you already know that this is not what God is saying, just let the brother know that's not what God is saying, and everybody will be fine. So in reiteration, know who you are, know who God has told you can marry, be sincere with God, and don't make decisions on the basis of current realities or current possibilities. Trust God. God knows best. God knows better than we do. And also ask God, what kind of marriage what is his goal for your marriage? Those questions, those knowledge, they help you in making right decisions when it comes to when it comes to maritals. Do we have any other question before we call it a night? Any other question from anybody before we call it a night? Abigail, do you have a question? You're welcome, Lamdi. And if you have a spin-off question, you can drop it on our WhatsApp group, and I'll send you a response to the WhatsApp group. Abigail, are you on this call and do you have a question? Okay, I'm not sure if Abigail is with us. Okay. So can we just take out a little bit of time to pray?